All right, guys, let's take a look at the Breitling Avenger. This is a newer release or new variant of the Avenger. There's much more brushing on this guy, and it's also a chronometer grade or a COSC. So big thanks to Richard over at Saltzman's Watches for sending this guy in. He actually sent it over to Bruce, and then Bruce sent it to me. Thankfully, I was able to check it out too. Bruce did a great video on it. He has way more experience with Breitling than I do. I have owned a Colt, which is the entry level. So I think the natural stepping stone from the Colt, in my opinion, would be this Avenger. And it's very progressive, I think, in its nature as far as like the Colt is a really good one to start off with if you want to, check out Breitling. But I think you're quickly going to end up maybe landing at the Avenger. So, I mean, you could potentially skip the Colt and go to the Avenger, and I think you'd be completely happy. They have obviously even some higher up ones, but this guy at retail price of $37.50. Of course, there's going to be some discounts on it. Typically, this is a phenomenal package. So let's get into the specs on this guy. It is a 43 millimeter case. The lug to lug is a little long, and I know that's maybe going to turn some people off, but it wears really good. 52.5 on the very, very max, all the way to because he's kind of taper, so all the way out. So it ranges basically from 51 to 52.5 about, but it's crazy thin at only 12.5 millimeter. That's including that double domed sapphire crystal with AR coating on both sides. So Breitling is one of the companies, much like Omega and Zinn and a few others, that do a phenomenal job with their AR coating on the top and the bottom side of the crystal. In many cases, I mean, unless you can get some good reflection, which is difficult to do when they build them like this, it basically looks like there is no crystal. It looks like you could just reach in there and touch the hands of the dial. So 22 millimeter lug width here, which is appropriate for a 43 by 52. And then the bracelet tapers down to a 20. So this has that, slant or angular type link going on here. It's going to be brushed. I'm not going to peel the stickers off, guys. This is a brand new watch. It's not mine. It's expensive. I'm not going to peel the stickers. So that's an agreement that I have with Saltzman. So it's brushed on the outside, polished in the center. And then this also has the upgraded clasp. This is my first look at the upgraded clasp. It's fully milled out. Gone is the stamped clasp here. The center folding bits here remain the same. The big change is this guy here. There are micro adjusts, but they're concealed within. So you have 4 micro adjusts inside there. There's relief cut in the link, so you can get your spring bar tool in there and you can adjust it up and down. It would be slick if it was an on-the-fly one, like a lot of other brands do, but it's a step in the right direction nonetheless. So the way this one works, I don't know, I can't remember if my Colt was the same way, but if you look, it's just got basically, it just kind of flexes and then goes in and snaps in and retains that bar there. And then a fold over clasp. Very smooth. It transitions off the bracelet really nice. So it's a nice clasp indeed. So, and it functions just fine. There's a look at the case back. Again, it has some stickers on there, but it's just brush. It's very smooth. There's no sharp edges or anything like that. It's very minimalist and just clean. Solid end links. You can see the solid end link is very short, tucked up to the case. And then that first center articulating link is going to fold directly over. The only reason it's not doing it now is because of the protective coating on it. So you can see excellent brushing, underneath the plastic, and then polished around the bezel. There's also the adjustment screws along the bezel. If we zoom in, you can see those. That is how the bezel is held onto the case. A little bit different. There's the cool little B that's stamped into the bezel. And those screws are all the way around. And then you have a really nice knurled B-signed crown. The crown is about 6.6 millimeter, so just under that 7 millimeter, but still plenty of traction on that. Very easy to use. And you can see there's the big rider tabs at the 3, 6, 9, 12, or whatever you want to call them. Oversized pip up there for excellent lume. And you can see there is a brilliant deep blue on this one. There's also a black variant. I don't know. I'd be torn between the black and the blue. I mean, obviously I'm going to gravitate towards the blue because I have it here in my hands and it's, calling my name. But you also have the regular Breitling wing logo with the B, which is done in white gold. Whereas like on my Colt, it was just the B. It was also in white gold, but it was just the B, which, they're cutting cost. It's an entry-level watch. Once you get up to the Avenger, you're getting COSC, you're getting the larger logo, maybe a little bit better finishing. I kind of think it's close, but maybe a little bit better. It's hard to do, a comparison when some of these entry levels of some of these really good brands are already very, very good. So you can see there, they look like applied indices, but there's some distortion on the dial where they set. So I can't tell if they're actually applied and they have like spots done in the dial or if they're actually pressed in from the underside. I don't know if anybody has that information. That'd be kind of cool to know. Really nice polished, simple handset. Very cleanly done though. There's no defects on this thing at all. So the quality control at Breitling, everyone that I've seen, which, I've had the Colt, now I've seen this one, but I've been to an authorized dealer and checked out a bunch in their display cabinet, and they all look crazy clean, whatever model you're picking from. The bezel is 120 click, and it's actually pretty easy to turn. I mean, there's like no traction if you're off the rider tabs, but I mean, if you grab the rider tabs, this is one of the best feeling and sounding bezels that I've tried in a long time. It's clean. There's not too much resistance on it, but there's enough that it's not going to move on you, and it's so well sorted. And you can see those rider tabs kind of go over that polished ring there, and separating the sapphire and the bezel. So let me see. I'm going to put it on wrist, but again, it's not sized or anything like that. There's screw links, and there's probably some really good videos out there already of sizing a Breitling bracelet like this. It's pretty weird because you have to take off a few extra links that you wouldn't normally think you would. But on my 7 1/4, this Avenger is perfection. And it's partly due to the thin nature of the watch. The reason it's partly, so thin is because the movement, it's a Breitling caliber 17, which is a worked over ETA 2824. Yes, they buy the high grade one and then they also put their hands on it. They do some things to it. They definitely get the COSC certification. I threw this on the time grapher in a bunch of different positions, and the worst timekeeping I could get out of it was +3 seconds. It's pretty much flatlined in most positions. So dial up, I could get +3, but a lot of times dial up, they do run a little bit fast. So 38-hour power reserve, like an ETA 2824 would have, 25 joules, 300 meter water depth rating on this. It has a couple of really good gaskets on the crown, of course, and then, the sapphire and then the case back and all that. They use top grade materials for sure. So let me get you a lume shot. I'm not sure. I could not find the information on what lume they use, but typically Breitling on the diver watches seem like they're pretty good. My Colt was not amazing, but again, it's entry level. This one, first impression, seems a little more vivid than the Colt was, and I love the oversized pips they use. And of course, I'm a big fan of the metal bezels too. So Breitling is definitely right up my alley. All right, big thanks to Richard over at Saltzman's for sending this over. I'll put their contact information in the description down below. If you were looking for, Breitling, they do some other authorized dealer watches. If you, Oris, hit them up, guys. They're a great store to deal with. Richard's awesome, and I'm sure they'll get you the best deal they can. So I'll catch you on the next vid, guys. Thanks for watching.